Hello and welcome to the I3 lecture series hosted by the Masters in Digital Photography here at the School of Visual Arts. I am Julie Graham. Thank you all for coming to our final lecture of the school year. Our students will be moving on, but the rest of you are expected back here in the fall. Closing the program is Kareem Black, Star Trek fan, chess player, karaoke aficionado, and accomplished photographer. Kareem and I have known each other for about as long as I've known our first speaker of the program, Rayon Richards. And they've known each other even longer, as they both studied here at SVA in the 19-somethings. Kareem is a commercial portrait and lifestyle photographer known for his work with celebrities and musicians, as well as for his bright and exciting advertising work. He has always excelled at blending personal with professional to the pleasure of his various clients, which include NBC Peacock, Netflix, Viacom, Starz, Paramount, MTV, MGM Grand, Smirnoff Vodka, Malibu Rum, Chick-Fil-A, Burger King, I'm starving, Kool Aid, Pepsi, McDonalds, Verizon, AT+T, Samsung, and FedEx. Kareem's work is always brimming with energy, so please let's give him an enthusiastic welcome.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming out. I feel like most people are here for the air conditioning, but that's cool. Truth be told, that's a lot of the reason I'm here too. My name is Kareem Black, and I don't really like public speaking, so we're going to see how this goes, and if it doesn't work out, you people are just going to have to wait, maybe. If you lock the door or something. A little bit of my story. I graduated SVA in 1999, and I never wanted to be an art photographer in quotes. I never really wanted to have art shows or put out a book. I always wanted to be in magazines. I always wanted to be on billboards. My greatest dream when I was at SVA was to have a billboard in Times Square. You know, like this is before, like, you know, like today everybody can get a billboard in Times Square, but my greatest dream was to have a billboard in Times Square, and to date I think I've had 19 or 20. So if the me back then could see the me now, I think I'd be pretty happy. When I was in SVA, there was an ongoing conversation about professional work, commercial work versus art photography. And I very surreptitiously and secretly sat in the back of this room over the past couple of weeks and saw a couple of the amazing speakers that you guys had. And they were all art photographers. And so in my head, I wanted to come here and be sort of the defender of commercial photography. But then I realized you had Rayon and a couple other great commercial photographers, and I changed the focus of my lecture a little bit, which is the fact that personal work really can blend seamlessly into your professional work, at least in my circumstance. There is a photographer, I have some notes here, I'm sorry. There's a photographer that said, don't shoot how it looks, shoot how it feels. I love that. I think that that's super cool. I think that we as artists sort of, that's our strength. That's what makes us different than the people who pay us. Let me show you guys a little bit of what I do. I think that you'll see that some of my inspirations go from sort of Richard Avedon to Guy Bourdin, who is my favorite photographer, David LaChapelle, who wouldn't be David LaChapelle if not for Guy Bourdin. This is something that I shot about a year and a half ago for NBC Peacock. And I think that very obviously the inspiration is American Gothic, but and having that classic callback. But I think that what I'm getting hired for here is to the expressions and also the ideas that are the comedy that's happening here. I think that there's a joke. I love jokes in my work. I love awkwardness. I love absurdity. The interesting thing about this particular shoot was not the production, which there was a ton of, not the sort of the wrangling of talent or discussing of ideas, which there was always, which there always is a lot of, but it was the fact that the client, NBC Peacock, which also includes Hulu and a couple other things, they took, their policy is to take the hard drive after the shoot, which we're photographers and we know sort of how awkward that can be. We know that sort of, for me at least, the shoot doesn't end when the actual shooting ends. The shoot ends weeks, maybe even months later after. I'll expand. When I shoot, what I love to do more than anything else is to go home, maybe have a little vodka soda, and go through my images. That's where the relationship with my images really starts to, I can see what I shot, you know? As artists, we have relationships with our work. And it was interesting when these clients, only NBC Universal does this now, I'm sure that it'll become more prevalent, but when they take the hard drive, it's like cutting off your, I don't know, I mean, name something important. That's what it is. I don't have that, I could not have this relationship with my images. And then when I saw this 4-story billboard in Times Square, I all of a sudden could remember the shoot. But I couldn't fool around with these images. I couldn't, hey, what about this one? It was bizarre. I know that this practice will probably become more prevalent, but it's definitely something that stuck out to me about this shoot and something that was completely unpleasant, and it made me realize that photography is the pre-production, it is the production, it's the post-production, and it is kind of just sitting with your photos, man. You know? It's kind of just hanging out with them. I don't play basketball, obviously. And I need to laugh that hard, but I got hired to shoot the Golden State Warriors, the entire team. I think it was the season before, not this season that just ended, I think there was the one before that. And because I don't know anything about basketball and I don't watch basketball, I've never played basketball, when the Warriors came to me and they asked me to shoot this, my pitch was like, hey, I'm not a sports photographer, I'm a portrait photographer. And I want to shoot these guys in that way. I want to shoot them as a portrait photographer, you know? I also love to capture these sort of imperfect moments. I feel like life's imperfect, so pictures that are imperfect are closer to real life. I have no interest in flattery. I have no interest in making people look good. My relationship with my photos is to sort of study them. It's the way that I see the world. It's the way that we all see the world. I have something called, actually, well, I've never been officially diagnosed with face blindness, but let's say I have face blindness. I do. I'm really bad with names. I'm really bad with faces. But if I photograph you, I will remember you forever because this is the way that I'm studying people. And this was the way that I approached this project, and I'm happy that they were sort of, that they were open to it. They also wanted me to do sort of these action shots, but to me it's sort of like my pitch was, I want to shoot these as studio, I want them to be lit, I want them to be in action, and I want them to be moments that, again, aren't necessarily These are moments that are happening. They're not necessarily these flattering moments. I want to see what these fantastic 7-foot tall, full of muscle athletes look like when they're doing what they do. Point of personal pride, it's like, you know, watching Steph Curry dribble in front of you and like do like what he does. That's one of the best things about what I do. It's like sort of, you know, these virtuosos in their field, and all of a sudden it's them and me. I love that. I mean, you know, it's like they're performing for me. They're performing for the camera, but it's sort of like they're performing for me. And I love, it's a perk. I'm not gonna lie. This is the final product of the campaign, obviously for the Warriors and Chase Center, where they play is called the Chase Center. The theme was gold-blooded, which I thought was pretty, you know, it was kind of witty, double entendre, or like a 1.5 entendre. And you know, one of the things I want to talk to you guys about is sort of the distance between this and then this, because a difference between sort of what a commercial photographer does and what a photographer, you know, who's showing in museums or whatever, is that, you know, it is a team effort. There are art directors, there is a client that has a point of view and a goal that may not be my point of view or my goal, you know? It behooves the client, behooves.
Yeah.
I like that. That was off the top. Okay. It behooves the client to make the talent look a certain way, looking at the camera, looking great, looking tough. And I think that in commercial photography, these are some of the, I don't want to call them sacrifices, but I don't even want to call them compromises because that's a weird word. But you know, it is a team effort. And so I have my favorites sometimes. The client has their favorites sometimes, and money is exchanged to rectify the difference. This is, hold on, I have a funny line for this one. I just have to read it. Let's see. Oh, these are references of two of my favorite pieces of media. So obviously on the left is The Simpsons, like the Homer Simpson going back into the bushes, and the complex cover, which is, I mean, the complex cover is maybe a decade old, not even, but it's a reference to great movie, Do the Right Thing, with the red wall. Both of these were shot in studio. Both of these were set builds. I think that one of the things that I'm going to try and speak about today is the importance of relationships and knowing people who are great for the job. I mean, Julie mentioned that her and I have known each other for more than a decade and a half, and here I am because of that relationship. I think that being able to know sort of the set builder that gets the Do the Right Thing reference and can set this setup in the allotted amount of time and gets all that is super important. Obviously, I'm lighting all this stuff. I want it to look like it's outside, and I think I did that. And the same thing with sort of the Audible cover with Sarah Cooper. I love, and this will come back to us later, I love working with talent that gets the joke. Actually, it was her joke to do this. Sometimes your clients or your talents don't exactly get where the shoot's going, and I think that it's up to us to state your case, convince, cajole talent and client as far as what your vision might be, so that you end up in a good place after the final product's put out. I get hired to shoot a bunch of good-looking people having a good time. And on the right, the Are You the One is something I shot for MTV. And it was just that. It was literally, obviously, a big cast of people. A lot of people ask me how these shots are orchestrated. From my point of view, I think it's 100 times easier to shoot a big group of people than to shoot a single person. Because once you start shooting a group of people, they start to interact with each other. And the photographer becomes the conductor. The photographer is always a conductor, but you can sort of see it in the Are You the One photo, but there are photos further on where you can see people really interacting with each other, and the photographer is saying, okay, person number 3, do that a little bit more, or person number 2, let's cut back on this. I love shooting big groups of people. And a point of pride is that this Are You the One photo for MTV, like that existed in camera, 95% of it. And I think that's cool. I think that usually for a shot of like that, there's some, like, you're trading heads or, you know, putting somebody else's body on somebody else. And this is obviously Tracy Morgan for TBS. There were a ton of concepts that we shot with Tracy that day that did not get used. They ended up using this, which I love the simplicity of it. I don't think that everything needs to be a huge sort of smorgasbord party sort of thing. My relationship with MTV has been over a decade. Like I said, I get called to shoot a bunch of Jersey Shore stuff or whatever the newest Shore show is. I think that, again, it's like a bunch of good-looking people having a good time, but I also think that, especially with the Jersey Shore one, it really is about sort of genuine energy and interaction. And again, I mean, like, I don't think it's the most flattering thing on everybody, but it's not about that. I think it's about these people are insane, and there's going to be a lot of energy, and you're going to have a really good time if you watch this show. And I think that the pictures that I want to take, the pictures that I do take, have that, and my sets hopefully have that energy also. I want everybody to be having a good time on set. I want the talent to especially be having a good time. I think that behind the camera, all of us producers, art directors, creative directors, I think that we are acutely aware of the fact that we have to be on time, we have to be on budget, we have 13 shots to accomplish in 10 hours, and this and this and that. I feel like once the talent gets wind of that, once the talent gets wind of the schedule, once the talent sees or gets a sense of the sausage making, then the jig is up. I think that the talent has to be like, this is the best day of our lives, and we're having a really great time. I have a theory that everyone wants to get their pictures taken. I have a theory that everyone, when they're alone at home by themselves, dances in the mirror, maybe naked, I don't know, but we all do it. Like, we all, and I think that if you can get, and probably looks stupid when you're dancing at home in the mirror by yourself. I know it looks stupid when I do it, but if you can get people to that place on set when they're okay in the same way as when they're dancing in the mirror by themselves, and you say it's okay, then you can make them do anything. I've never met a person in life or on one of my sets that is immune to flattery. I've never met a person, and I think that I mean, it's one of the tricks that photographers have. You know, you make them feel beautiful. You make somebody feel beautiful, you can make them do anything. More Jersey Shore stuff, another campaign. I think that it is important as artists when we're shooting these campaigns, these billboards, and there's a bunch of money on the line, to take 1 or 2 moments and to do work for you. Take pictures that may not ever see the light of day. On the right, it's, I almost said my friend, she's my friend, JWoww, Jenny. And, you know, it's just a picture of, you know, we're on a lunch break. I'm like, hey, like, you wanna, let's go out and take some pictures, you know? And I think that one of the most important things that I've learned in my career is to always take those pictures regardless of how many people are on set or what the job or client might be. Like, there's gotta be, you know, a time allowing. There's gotta be time for some pictures. Who cares if they run or not? It's therapy to me, you know? There's another shore show for MTV, and another example of sort of me doing something for myself. I have a weird fascination with sort of like bodybuilders, and I mean, obviously, I'm not a basketball player. I'm not a bodybuilder either. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I think that we live in this time where people are making themselves look in ways that humans have never looked before, and I think that that's fascinating. So I was not letting this guy off my set without, I don't know, taking some pictures. One of my favorite photographers is Herb Ritz. Actually, I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite, but I sort of love his black and white stuff, Venice Beach, and like the bodybuilder stuff, and I think that you can see that sort of right here. Again, sort of these moments. This is, so I just turned 47, and a lot of the people that I photograph, I have no idea who they are. I don't, like, I just don't know who they are, which is fine. I mean, it shouldn't make a difference if you know or not. You know, I think that all photo shoots are in some ways sort of like, you know, blind dates, like you never know what you're walking into. This is Glorilla, who apparently is a really big rapper. I shot her in my living room, and I got very lucky with the big space that I can shoot in, but like her entourage, my house was overcrowded. It was like her entourage was crazy. For me, we're talking about energy, we're talking about interaction, we're talking about we're just talking about a vibe, and I think that that's what I feel when I look at these pictures. There's John Turturro. I don't even know what to say about this. I feel like for me, there is comedy in absurdity, like I said, and I like an unfinished joke. I like a sort of I like a sort of what the hell is going on here? For me, it makes me wonder that. It makes me look at the picture a little bit longer. And this is John Turturro and I just being strange. This is not in the shot list. This wasn't planned. But I think that there's something about it. He's looking at a shoe. It's weird. This is, so on the left is Method Man, on the right is Kevin Bacon. So the Method Man image is probably the most, I mean, I shot it maybe 3.5 weeks ago. It's probably the most recent piece of work here. And it was a super interesting shoot with an interesting story. Being a child of sort of like the 90s and the early 2000s, like my recollection of, by the way, do you guys know who Method Man is? Yes. You guys, okay, cool. Because the day before I shot Method Man, just a little side story, day before I shot him, I shot a 20-year-old gymnast, he's gonna be at the Olympics, and I'm like, hey man, like tomorrow I'm shooting Method Man. He's like, who? Anyway, so in my head, Method Man is the Method Man from my sort of formative years. The Method Man is crazy, and he's really loud music videos and Wu-Tang, you know, like all of that. And it didn't, and when I wanted to do the shoot, in my head, that was my image of Method Man. And so I got a bunch of crazy props and, you know, a bunch of like inflatable boxing gloves and stuff, like really fun stuff, you know. And his people, PR people who arrived before him, they're like, look, it's just not gonna happen. He's not that guy right now. And I get that, and it was one of those things where I start getting sort of pushback from his PR, and I'm like, okay, how am I gonna attack this? How am I gonna, like, once he gets on set, how are we gonna, like, I've got all these props here that, you know, people have worked really hard to get to me, and obviously it's not gonna happen. And, you know, I had to put on my photographer hat and really think that it is like a blind date. Let's see where this guy is at, and let's figure out. And it turned out that Method Man is sort of method, like middle-aged man now. You know what I mean? Like he's 53 or 54. So like, of course he's not that guy. Of course he's not. I was stupid to think that he might be. And we ended up making pictures of Method Man as he is now. Like we ended up sliding into that. And also, I played a trick on him. This is one of my old tricks. I have a couple tricks on set. I am not above, a lot of my tricks are like self-deprecation. I'm not above making myself look like an idiot in order to make everybody comfortable. I remember when people, you know, everybody's like, okay, Method Man, he's coming to set right now. And we were just finishing setting up, and I didn't have my shoes on. And I was wearing mismatched socks. And I'm like, okay, let me put my shoes on. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do this shoot in my mismatched socks. Because I think that it's a signal that, hey, this isn't that serious. You know what I mean? We're photographers. Like my mom's a doctor. She saves lives. She's retired now. She saves lives. I'm out here taking pictures. It's not that serious. You know what I mean? I feel, and Method Man, he made fun of me for my socks. But I think that to get everybody to that place, it's not that serious. I think that is, it's a secret of mine. I think it goes across photographers. I think most photographers will tell you that. I mean, similarly, like how am I going to shoot Kevin Bacon? I don't know. I've never hung out with him. But if I were Kevin Bacon, what would I listen to? And so we kind of just played the Beach Boys all day, and it worked. I don't know, if I was Kevin Bacon, I'd listen to Beach Boys. This is a young actor named Dominic Sessa. I shot him for Times of London. I get hired to shoot a lot of like young, hot, you know, talent guys and girls. My inspiration for this was sort of like, especially for the black and white ones, was sort of like James Dean, and you know, these photos. There's a famous photo of him walking through Times Square with like a black sort of like trench coat in like the 50s, I think, and like I think that was sort of my inspiration for the black and white ones. And then for the color ones, something super interesting happened. For the one on the upper right, I think that a light didn't fire or something, and we saw it come up on the computer. I'm like, let's do this, you know. I think that as photographers, it's imperative to make space for improvisation, for inspiration, right then on set, you know, where I think that it's easy to fall into, okay, we've got this shot list, 15 shots, it needs to be, but it's like, you know what, if something looks great, like, even if we're a little behind, like, just give me a couple shots. Like, let me make it happen. And I think that was the impetus for the shot on the upper right. And then we took it also the shot on the lower left. You're gonna see this is a little bit quieter than the work that I do a lot of the time, but embracing these sort of what are they called? Happy accidents. I think it's imperative that we do that. Sarah Cooper, again, she's the same person that I shot with the Audible stuff with the Homer Simpson GIF. Again, I think real moments, imperfection, obviously a beautiful woman, imperfection. Jeffrey Wright and Charlie Day. Jeffrey Wright, super interesting conversation, super talented guy. He made a point to me, I think we were talking about Fight Club or something, and this is actually relevant to this lecture. We were talking about Fight Club or something, and he said that he didn't like it, and I said that I liked it. And he said something to me in the vein of, well, you're not an actor, so you can't, basically I can't judge it, because I'm not, can't judge a movie. But I think that, we all have our senses of taste, and we all have our opinions, and all of them are relevant. Obviously we let that lie and did this shoot, but that philosophy of not being able to understand something because you don't do it, or your opinion is not relevant. I thought that was interesting. That was an interesting viewpoint. I shot this about a month ago. I got hired at the very, 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 very last minute to shoot the Met Gala after party, the Ray-Ban after party. And crazy story, I get a call at maybe 5:45, PhotoCare, where I rent, shout out to PhotoCare, closes at 6. I get this call at 5:45 to shoot that night. I need to find a digital tech. Who's digital tech? Okay, it's this kid Ethan that lives on the 5th floor. I live on the 2nd floor in my apartment building. He's my digital tech now. I need an assistant. Okay, it's a kid that I met at FIT when I lectured over there. I need someone to hold the whole damn thing together, and it's my beautiful girlfriend, Zita. And we rolled there with this equipment, not knowing exactly what was going to happen, with only, 15 minutes or something prior notice, and shot this stuff. I think that one of my favorite photo books is Richard Avedon, American West. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but in American West, he travels to the American West and photographs mostly sort of blue collar, regular Americans on white, on white background. Sometimes you can see the edge of the background, like in this image. And this was sort of my inspiration with these. Obviously, again, I am goading these people. I'm goading these people into giving me a moment, not just standing there. I love this photo. This whole thing is from the Met Gala. This photo I love because I think that the actual photo that a client would have wanted is 3 photos after this. I think that she is composing herself. She's getting ready to be photographed, and I think that that's why it's good, or that's why I'm attracted to it. She's in her own head. I call this my Met Gala Mona Lisa. There's something about shooting people on white or black, but white I think is more sort of clinical and sterile. So it becomes a study of what people look like, what they're wearing. This is, again, during the Met Gala. It's a dream job because everybody shows up looking like this. You know what I mean? We shot I got the call at 5:45, and we ended up leaving at 7:30 a.m. the next day. A lot of these people are like actual people. Like I'm just too old to know. Like a lot of these people have like millions of followers, but I don't know. To build off that point, not important. Not important. Like if I know them or how many followers they have. I want this. This is what I want. I don't care how famous you are. I want a picture. And I want a moment. Met Gala Ray-Ban by Kareem Black. This was actually a presentation that I put together for clients. This is something that I shot. If we were talking about Richard Avedon, American West, this is very American West inspired. This is something that I shot, believe it or not, for Chick-Fil-A. I know, right? And what they wanted to do was to give thanks and give recognition to the delivery people that worked for them. I am old enough to remember when these delivery people were essential workers, remember that? And I thought it was really cool that Chick-fil-A wanted to give them sort of recognition and attention in this way. And this presentation is something that was submitted to a bunch of, we won a bunch of Clios, we won a bunch of canned lions for this, we won a bunch of pencils for this campaign. And I thought that on top of that, I really think that we were doing a good thing, you know? They got interviewed for this, which I thought was very, very cool. This is one of the only shoots where I did have a little bit of moral, what's the word, ambiguity, maybe? Maybe that's not it. But Chick-fil-A, they have taken some stances in the past that I obviously don't agree with. And for me, I think that I will shoot for most people. I'll shoot liquor campaigns, I'll shoot cigarette campaigns. I'm probably not going to do like a campaign for like the Klan or something. I'm not going to do that. But it's like, but I thought, my point is that this campaign for Chick-fil-A, I thought that they were really doing a good thing. I used to be a bike messenger. I know these guys, and what I was doing was guys. It was all guys. Now there are a lot of women, still majority guys though. And so it was an honor to be able to shoot this and know that I was doing a good thing and give recognition to people that I was familiar with, if not literally, spiritually. Time flies. I went through a phase where I was going out a lot and drinking a lot and partying a lot. And I was taking pictures of my adventures, mostly on the Lower East Side, in bars and in bathrooms. And so I was taking a bunch of pictures of this stuff. My agent at the time, Bernstein and Drewley, said, hey, why don't you put these pictures into a book and show them? And we ended up calling this series Feels Good, Let's Go. I also ended up doing a street campaign. It's something we could talk about that in another lecture, but I did a bunch of street campaigns where it's me putting stickers of my brand all over other people's stuff. But this is what Feels Good, Let's Go is and was. In Feels Good, Let's Go, I had a fetish to sort of cut people's eyes off, because I think that denying the viewer that bit of information is sort of, it's a tease. You know what's going on, but like that last little bit of information, it's like we all live in a yellow. That's right. You see what I'm saying? It's like we're giving them enough clues to know what's happening, but they can fill in the rest of it. And there was something that I really loved about that. This is me documenting the life that I was living. By the way, those plastic stars, like, don't try to swallow them. Like this guy right here, I don't know who he is, but I know I want to be at that party. You know what I mean? Don't take pictures of what it looks like, take pictures of what it feels like. My bodybuilder fetish, I don't know. Now these are Feels Good, Let's Go style, but this is a campaign that I shot for SLS Hotel. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. My personal life, photos that I was taking for myself with the G10 at downtown bars can very easily transition into, or at least for me, it transitioned into, you know, SLS Las Vegas, Smirnoff, Budweiser, a bunch of liquor campaigns. This is something I shot for MGM Grand. This is Feels Good, Let's Go. Same thing. It's imperfect. The eyes are cut off. There's a mess. This is something I did for myself, this little smiley face. Thought that was cool. Didn't end up getting used, but I love that. I love orchestrating scenes like this. Hey, person number one, this is your character. Person number two, you are now, you know, angry at him for whatever, and then everyone starts to fall into the flow of the scene. This is something in a similar vein, obviously shot in the studio. Is a Smirnoff campaign that I shot. Who let me do this? Like, this is crazy. Like, why would Smirnoff want to do it? Like, I love the fact that they did this. That's insane. Like, why? It's just weird. They hired the right photographer. Girl's got a donkey hat on. Strange. Doesn't make any sense. Malibu, Feels Good, Let's Go, same thing. The ultimate expression of Feels Good, Let's Go is a campaign that I got a few years ago for Viacom. It was the biggest job that I've ever been up for. It's the biggest job I ever shot. Spoilers, I ended up getting it. This is a treatment for that job. And basically a treatment is a photographer's statement of intent. It is what an artist an artist that does art shows would call an artist statement. It is saying, this is what I intend to do, and this is how I'm going to do it on time and on budget. Here's my plan of attack. Based on, the treatment comes after a call. You know, the client says, this is what we want to do. This is sort of, you know, our budget. This is sort of the message that we're trying to send. This is the actual treatment that I sent to Viacom. And Viacom is, it's Paramount now, but at the time it was MTV, VH1, BET, Cartoon Network, the Country Music Channel, and a bunch of other things. And the idea for this campaign was there's a house party, and in every individual room there is one talent from each brand. There's an MTV talent, there's a Cartoon Network talent, and they're all part of this party. And this is me spelling this out. A lot of time treatments are to make the client rewind. I always had difficulty talking about my work because because people want to know how we do what we do. And like the truth is, I don't know. I don't know. Like I have no philosophy. I have a camera, right? When I see something I like, I take a picture of it. And I think that that's most photographers' instincts. Like, why are you asking me? You saw my portfolio, you saw my site, you know I can do this job. I think the more money that's on the line, like a lot of people want to say, okay, well, but how? How is this going to happen? And a lot of times it's me saying, I understand, here's my plan of attack. this is what's important. Still photographer, I was coordinate with the first AD and DP. Basically, I'm saying that I'm shooting the stills, but there is a video component. There's another team shooting video, and I'm telling the people who are going to pay me that it's important for the two teams to coordinate. Discipline is a word that a lot of people associate with me. It's about energy and moments that look spontaneous and unposed. There are a lot of buzzwords here. It's important to know that in all my treatments, this is all my work. There's a campaign that I shot for Malibu in Spain. And I think it's important to say, be like, I have done this. And I can do what you're asking me to do. Especially with things like Feels Good, Let's Go, where we're talking about where the images are, imperfect and it looks messy. It's important to explain to the client that, this is what the party is. But I think it's super important to explain to the client, this is what the party is not. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, like, people are not going to be, and I encountered this a lot in liquor campaigns where the people can't look drunk in a liquor campaign. The people, you know what I mean? Like, it's what kind of billboard is that? Like, people passed out on the floor. Like, you're not going to have that. So it's important for the photographer to explain to the client, like, we understand this. I want everybody to look, great. Like, they're having the time of their lives. Again, this is me these details. I love them all. Oh, wait, hold on, wait, what? Oh, that's crazy. You know what? So I wouldn't do this today, but it's really a great house party. Has a bunch of shit going on. I wouldn't have said shit today. Huh. I wouldn't have done that today. And I don't think I would do this today, really, but I think that what we're trying to do with this treatment, which I got the job from, was, hey, this is my sort of aura. Like, I am energetic. I was young at the time, and like, I know how to do this. It's going to be fun, but I am the photographer to hire for this particular energy of the job that you're talking to me about. So that was my actual treatment that got me this actual job, one of the biggest jobs I've ever done, if not the biggest. This is the actual job. So now we went from treatment to this job. It's the only job that I've ever been on where like money didn't seem to be an issue. It was weird. It was like, we need 10 more, men 18 to 25, and they would just show up. They had like hundreds of extras and hundreds of crew. It was great. It was 2.5 weeks between New York and LA. And again, like, Trevor Noah in the basement, breakdancing. This is Josh Duhamel. At the time, she was starring in Transformers. On the right, you can see the photo that I like. On the left is a photo that ran on the billboard. And I completely understand why the client wanted the photo on the left. The guy looks beautiful. He's looking straight at the camera. Like, I get it. This is a real shot. For all the talent, we had like a crowd surfing shot. He was the only one that actually did it. I don't know if you saw in my treatment, but like in the treatment it explains like if the talent didn't want to do it, then we can do some like computer magic. But this one is real. Yeah. These are the ads. They're fine, whatever. But this is more than one cook in the kitchen. If it was up to me, this probably wouldn't be the pictures I ran. But I think it's instructive to show you where it came from and where it ended up. My Trevor picture versus theirs, all good, whatever. This one at the end for Drag Race, I really like, but I like this picture a lot better. This is when the talent, the drag queen named Alaska, was not in it, and these are just all the extras. And to me, like, it looked like a Caravaggio or something, you know? And there's just all this stuff going on. I love it. It reminds me of a painting. This is horrible. This is horrible. And yeah, I don't like babies. I put this in here so that, for a couple reasons. I think that here you can see me trying to muscle my style into this scenario that I was not sort of comfortable with. I think that for what I do and for what most of us probably do, if we work with people, is important for communication to sort of go both ways and for the subject to be in on any joke that you're telling. And I think that, my communication with kids isn't great. The client loved it, but I think that for it to be a teachable moment, I learned sort of the importance of, especially what I learned is I don't want to work with kids anymore, but I also want to do, I demand or I request in-person casting, if not that, video casting, to sort of you get a sense of how people move and how they react to stimulus or instruction. I also, the stage moms that were behind me, it was a whole thing. I hated this. I think that failure is essential. When I was younger, you don't want to be hanging out with me after I did a shoot, like after the cameras, like after we finished the shoot and after the adrenaline wears off. I was super hard on them. I was borderline abusive to myself about sort of, I should have said this, or I should have used this lighting, and I should have, I don't do that anymore really, but I do think that introspection, reflection, just thinking about how shoots have gone, what could be, I think in a gentle way that's not abusive, I think that is super important for all of us. There's a series that I shot on Chinese New Year in Chinatown. Got a couple super good looking people that I know that happen to be models and a stylist, and just sort of went down there. I've always wanted to shoot during Chinese New Year is a vibe, man. This is my vibe. Like, it's like a lot of smoke bombs and like shit going on all over the place. It's great. So it's like all of a sudden I have a built-in set. Like, I have a built-in set and I have built-in extras. Let me take some people down there, style them, and shoot something fun. I think that as photographers, as artists, again, we have to create work for ourselves. I think the work for ourselves is not just sort of therapy for us, but I think that it is an advertisement for what we want to do. This feels good. This is not a long walk from this to Viacom to Feels Good, Let's Go. It's not a long walk. It's a very short distance. I love that. These colors and snake pants. And to me, the detail shots, I feel like when you do an environmental portrait and you shoot somebody in their own space says something about them, right? And I think that in the same way the details add to, I think that this adds to that. I think this adds to that. This is what was going on that day. I think it's that vibe. I love those details. I've been a big fan of wrestling all my life. Wrestling at its best, as you know, as I'm sure all you guys know, wrestling at its best is Shakespearean. It is, at its worst, whatever. Like, it's fun, it's stupid, it's smart, it's dramatic. I started to shoot this wrestling, this indie wrestling league in Brooklyn. And the great thing about this, wrestling as performance, it's great. I mean, they come in, they wear this stuff, and I'm sort of a fly on the wall. I bring my white background so I can do my portraits, but then a lot of it is reportage. The energy is absolutely amazing. The characters are absolutely amazing. And the reason, I'll show you the reason I'm showing this. I mean, I'm showing it because it's my lecture, but I want to show you this as personal work, but also it's ridiculous. It's wrestling. It's beautiful. Details. This is another piece of a presentation that I put together for clients. Whenever I shoot anything that I'm really proud of, I definitely put it together in PDF and send it off. Hey, this is something that I just did. There's so many photographers in New York City, I think that, and so many great, great photographers that I think that we need to just let people know what we're up to. Lest we get caught, we get lost in the shuffle. So this is a PDF that I sent to some clients. In this particular instance, this is now backwards. So it's like the stuff that I shot of the wrestling league in Brooklyn, I'm doing now. But I also used to shoot for the WWE, a lot of backstage stuff and a lot of portraits. So these are professional wrestlers. You will know me by the pictures that I take. You know what I mean? It is the same. There's a consistency, I hope, between the personal and the professional, and you can tell I'm a man who loves wrestling. I mean, they're superheroes. I mean, again, in a shot like this, I am not I'm not choreographing this. But I choreographed that. Like I saw her walking down the hall at the stadium, and I'm like, can you just please walk toward me one more time? Kind of, it's ridiculous. And the last thing that I want to show is this. I used to be a skateboarder. It was my first love, even before photography. My first jobs, actually during SVA, was to shoot skateboarding ads, or ads for a skate shop that I was sponsored by. I was never pro, but I was sponsored by a skate shop. I don't skate that much anymore, but I still love it. I still dream about it, and I photograph it whenever I can. And this is Harold Hunter weekend. And just me, this is personal work. This is me photographing some of the incredible personalities down there. I love the culture. I love the characters. I am still these kids, like drinking out of the same water bottle outside of Wawa in Philadelphia, you know, like very unhygienic, but like, you know, like this is very, very close to my heart. Again, American West, this is a through line. You know, I put up this white background, and my assistant's like, you know, should we make the tape neater? It's like, no, man, absolutely not. There's something about this. I like I said, I love photographing people on white because it really it becomes a portrait study, but I think it also, I like having the white background, but then you can see further, like there's something else going on outside the white background, just like with the Met Gala stuff. I like that little bit of reality or bit of environment to come in a lot of ways. Like I couldn't script this, you know, like I couldn't style this. These real people, these real new, with this sort of style, really, I love it. I love it. as photographers, in some ways, we are all sort of, what's the word? Sort of, I mean, we record reality. We document, and I think that a project like this, as opposed to a project like what I shot for Viacom, is definitely a document of just the people that were there, like this. Like seeing how people look. So again, this is a presentation that I did for clients. Hey, this is what I'm up to. I hope you like the pictures. That's it. And so that's why this end tag is on there. I think that that's the last thing that I have to show. This is my, oh, you can clap. It's very important. You guys should definitely follow me on Instagram. And thank you.
Thank you, Kareem.
Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
First of all, awesome photos.
Thank you.
So inspiring. I noticed one of the slides earlier, it said like after you went to college, you went right into shooting for a bunch of really big names, big brands. Did you, I guess, network while you studied? Did you pitch? Like, how did you jump right into becoming such a successful photographer?
I mean, the short answer is luck. I think that the more detailed answer is, while I was at SVA, okay, so here's how we can do this. Just like I've known Julie for years, and I am now here because I know Julie, I think that these relationships that can last for years or decades are super, super important. When I started, like I said, the first shoot that I did was for a skate shop that I was sponsored by as a skateboarder, right? The person who I shot for those ads was the owner of the skate shop's girlfriend. The owner of the skate shop's girlfriend knew someone who ran a magazine called Warp Japan. It was like a DJ magazine out of Japan. They would call me every once in a while. I'm a junior in SVA, and they would want me to go out and shoot DJs and stuff for them. And every once in a while, I would get a check from them. I've never even seen my stuff published in Warp Japan, but it was published in Japan while I was in SVA. The relationships are super, super important. Everybody always knows someone. If someone is not into your work, it's always super important to ask them, hey, do you know someone who might be into my work? Kind of thing. Once I was shooting DJs, I met people out there that worked for magazines. I started to work for magazines. Started to shoot musicians for magazines. If you're shooting musicians, then you meet the musician's PR. All of a sudden you're shooting CD cover. There was a thing called CDs back in the day, and it's like music. And shoot CD covers. From that comes sort of advertorials and advertising. And so it was sort of that. It was a lot of, I think that people do deals with people. And I think that networking is real. I think that meeting people is super important. And I think that not being a dick is super important. The industry is big, but it's really not. It's really small. Do what you say you're going to do, and don't be a dick. And I think that you'll be good. I hope that answers.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Yes.
Hi. So
Hi.
speaking of relationships, I've known you a while. So it's Megan. Hey.
Hey.
So it's kind of cool to like see the evolution of all this, and like I assisted you
Oh
back
my
in the
God.
day, and now we're
Okay,
friends.
cool. Lights in my face. Hey.
Hey. So it's like exciting to be here and like kind of see this as like someone who has worked with you, and now who's someone that I consider like a peer and a friend. It's interesting. I have a question about like when you first showed that Amazon billboard. I'm wondering, because you said like you saw it and it was like very different than what you maybe expect, because like they're taking it, right, and they're doing what they do with it. Are you able to oversee any of the process? Are you shooting any of those assets? Like, how do those jobs come together in the post part of it? Because like I've shot some things and then it's like, whoa, I wish I wrote down questions for everything because I have so many questions for you about so much of this. Like there's so much information that you just shared with all of us. I have like the Chick-Fil-A stuff. Like was that shot during COVID and were you shooting in a studio for that?
We're in the studio. And I don't think it was during COVID.
It was like thanking the essential workers.
This is 24, that was probably 22.
Okay, so it's like after.
But you're talking about this.
Yeah. Because like the money and everything, like are you shooting all those assets? Are you shooting like the location as well and then they're comping it all together?
Right.
Or are you actually on location shooting?
That's such a good question. That's such a good question. So in this particular situation, not to get too much in the weeds, but the overall concept was American Gothic. And then it's sort of the negotiations go and they go, and it's like, look, we're going to have to do this in the studio, but we've got these existing assets that another photographer did. I did photograph the money, for what it's worth, but another photographer did the background and the trailer on its side, and I think that is not, for me, it's not an ideal situation. But when I don't mind it when the details are that, what's the word? I don't want to say like unimportant, but totally cool. I think it's important from a technical angle for us to ask like, hey, if my photos are going to be comped into this thing, I'd like to know what lens this other photographer was using. It's not that important here, but if something's going to get comped, you sort of want to know what lens they used, and you want to see sort of the options where your images are going to be comped into. The lens is so like the distortion matches up. This doesn't really make sense here, but that's sort of how that one worked. That it doesn't happen a lot in that way, but yeah, with this there were existing assets of the background, and my job was to run through a bunch of expressions, and there were a bunch of other options for key art for this, which we did shoot, which ended up not being used. Hope that answers.
So the background was shot first.
Background
and
was shot first.
You had those to kind of comp into.
The background was shot first. Yeah, I feel like it's super important. Like, okay, cool. Like, if we're going to do this as a comp, it's going to make everyone's lives easier at the end of the day if I know what I'm going to be comping into.
Yeah, totally. And then one other question was, when you were showing like some of the Viacom stuff you shot, and you're like, I like these more than what they picked. Obviously, we know why they picked those. Are you able to show them? Are you able to like put them, because like the outtakes, like what is the like negotiation with that?
Sure. These days, the bigger the job is, so for this, the client walked with a drive. Like I didn't even walk with anything. Client has a shoot. I never even saw the shoot, which is insane. With Viacom, usually the norm is I get my drive, client gets their drive, and they're usually very interested in the photographer's point of view. Like I give them selects. Hey, this is what I'm really feeling right now. The selects that I'm giving them are the selects I'm giving them are my selects, but I am not aware that there needs to be print, unless it's otherwise stated. There needs to be print right here, or they need to, this is an episode on the series that we are going to be emulating, so we need a shot where they're like this. So a lot of times I'm not privy to that information, but of course, like, yeah, I want to give them my selects. This is what I think is cool and why, kind of thing. But like I said, there are a couple different. What's important to me is not necessarily important to them. It's just the way it goes. That's why they pay us money.
So they let you, but you can use those outtakes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unless I can't sell them. But like unless otherwise sort of stated, yeah, I mean, I can use them for my promotion, but I mean, that's my agent's sort of negotiating that sort of usage, you know?
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey.
You mentioned earlier about talking about how important like not only just the shoot is, but the pre-production and the post-production. I know we just talked a lot about the post, but I was actually really interested on like you've had such a long successful career, like what you feel like is the most valuable part of your pre-production preparing for a shoot, especially because you're dealing with like these bigger budgets and like these very tight clients that want their thing, and how you really try to push more unconventional shots and more in the moment candid, like how you work in your pre-production to create such successful shoots.
I mean, pre-production is a couple things. Thank you for the question. I mean, I think that everything starts with, you know, my agent saying, hey, there's this job, it's from this client, and it's kind of this, right? The full vision of what that job is happens on sort of a call, like an initial call. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, cool, I get it. Well, how many talent? I'm asking what they want to do. I think that a good sort of political thing to do is definitely ask questions on these calls. A good actual thing to do is to ask questions on these calls so that you get a vision of what they are trying to accomplish. Then I come back with my treatment. This is how I'm going to do it. Usually, it's not just me. It's usually like a triple bid. It's me and two other photographers, and it's like, it's annoying, but like, and the treatment, from the plan of attack, I think that the client picks what photographer is going to get the job. That's a lot of the sort of pre-pro, but then there's also like actually doing it. Where are we renting from? Who do we know in these cities? How can we make this easier, cost effective? That sort of thing. Again, relationships. Know great producers. Producers, you're talking about production, which I'm not that great at. It's not our jobs as photographers, but know a great producer. They're the ones who make the world go round. You know, like they know everyone, every city, where you can get equipment and streets that we can shoot without permits and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to leave this wide open, but I think you can tackle it from anywhere. What is your current relationship or thoughts on AI?
Wow, a beautiful member of the audience. 5 minutes. Oh, all right. By the way, I wasn't being creepy. That's my girlfriend, so I can like. AI. I think that the short answer is it remains to be seen what this AI thing is. I think it remains to be seen. I think that AI right now is sort of like a catchphrase. I think it's sort of where, like artificial intelligence, like where does intelligence begin and sort of computation end? I think that I have not seen anything from AI that isn't just sort of very fast computation with access to basically the sum of human knowledge, like the internet. I think it's very sort of, I don't see AI thinking. I don't see morality there. I see it scooping up the internet and regurgitating stuff. And it's very impressive. It's very impressive. My relationship with it, you know, I'm a chess player, so as you all know, Garry Kasparov is probably the greatest chess player that ever lived. And in 1997, he was defeated by Deep Blue, the IBM computer. And since then, there's been no human that could ever defeat a computer in chess, ever. Like, even today, there are grandmasters that would get defeated by, you know, a treadmill, like a chess playing treadmill, whatever. But chess players, what we did was we used those programs to make our chess more perfect. Like we used the computer programs to judge our games and show us our mistakes. And I think that that's what I think AI is a tool. And I think that learning how to use that tool is super important. Is it intelligent? And maybe one day, well, I mean, Terminator, that's Terminator 2, like when it becomes like intelligent, but like, right now I think it's a tool. It can sift up the internet. It can make some interesting sort of, remixes. And I think it's useful if you know how to use it, but it's a buzzword that a lot of people are throwing around at this point. That's my opinion.
One or two more. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. Jenny, and then you, and then you.
Hi, thank you
Hi,
so much
thank you.
for sharing your work and your experiences. I have a kind of going along question with this specific image. So whenever you're working with clients, so it doesn't really happen often for the creative director or the producers to kind of take the SD card or the hard drive after the photo shoot. So, or like, is it often or is it not?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I mean, this, like, so there's NBC Universal or NBC Peacock, and then there are a couple things under that, like Hulu but when I have shot for them, the 3 times I have, those have been the only times where they take the shoot. And I don't have anything. But usually they have a drive and they have the shoot and I have a copy of the shoot. Basically, and I'm pretty cool with that, more or less.
Yeah. Yes. As long as they give you the pictures.
Right.
And then I have another question with kind of like that. So whenever you're like pre-production or like during the shoot, or even during production, post-production. So like during those like 3 steps, like whenever you have like slightly different approach of like the overall idea that the producer kind of came up with, do you still give them those extra ideas to see where that can go with, or do you kind of like is it better to keep it on yourself, or is it still better to kind of shoot your shot?
Shoot my shot. I like that. That's a super good question. I mean, obviously, I always try to shoot stuff for me. I think that, it's a dance. As a commercial photographer, you are there with a client. You are being paid to make a vision actual. But the vision that you're being paid to make actual, they're hiring you for a reason, right? There's a reason they're hiring me and not the next photographer. So it's not like you get on set and you're an automaton that pushes a button. So I think that we always, hopefully, have a say in what's happening, but what's happening on set is really something that has been discussed for a couple weeks. Like, we're not getting on set and like just let's see what happens. Like, so it's definitely good to be like, hey, we discussed this. We're gonna hit these points. These are the really important things to do. Hey, but I do think that it's super important. Like, inspiration is real. You know what I mean? I think that if I feel strongly that it's like, hey, I've got this idea, like, let's do this. And we do have the time, like, I don't want to put us over budget, but I think that we're also being hired because we're artists, we're weird people, right? So it's like, embracing that inspiration. I don't think it's something that people should shy away from. Time and budget allowing.
All right, Kareem, I want to thank you for inviting me down.
Thank you for coming.
This is Hassan.
Oh, I knew I recognized that. What's
My
happening,
question
man?
to you, I've always been a fan of your work, but the business of photography is a little different. And when you look at the business of photography, one thing that I've admired, that I've seen you do, is the marketing part of showcasing your work and making sure your work is in the right hands and the right eyes and the right people are seeing it. And I think you're very super aggressive with that. And I've always admired that about you and your work ethic around marketing your work. You talked about it briefly. You showcased a couple of photo essays. But I think it's important for everyone here who's pursuing a career in photography to hear that point of view in a little bit more detail. Like when you go about, how do you go about marketing your work and getting it to the right hands so you can get those jobs?
Thanks for the question, man. I feel like I genuinely believe relationships are super important. Relationships with people that hire photographers, relationships with other photographers, relationships with stylists, all the people who help us do what we do, help us. All the people who, I don't like that. That puts us at the top. But do you know what I mean? The members of our teams. As far as promotion, I went through a stage in my career where I was doing sort of huge sticker campaigns and putting my stuff up on other people's stuff like this. It's because, in Philly, I grew up in Philly, I was a graffiti artist, and it's sort of like that sort of, I wanted to shoot billboards, but you know what? Like I can make billboards of my own and stick them on everywhere. So that was sort of an abstract promotional thing that I was doing for a minute, and in different iterations. It was this and a couple other stickers. But also I think it was like, I think just, I was out a lot. Like I was out partying, but 80% of the time I'm really partying with a purpose. I'm partying with the people who hire photographers and whatever, and it's not sort of an insidious thing. I think it's just, your people hire people who they know and like, and so even, I have to force myself to go out more these days, just to events and getting to meet people, and that is self-promotion. Right now, what I'm doing is, I should have brought them. I have these like newsprint promos, it's like a newspaper kind of style thing, and the reason I'm doing it is because like no one else is. Like it's such an antiquated sort of analog way of showing your work, and I like that. I don't want to walk into a meeting with an iPad like everybody else, and like, why are you walking with an iPad? Everybody's got a computer. It's like, I think that the secret is, hey, like I'm going to zig while other people are zagging, and like that sort of, and also just being out there. I think that's super important. Like just, hey, I did this body of work. Here's a PDF. You might not write me back. Totally fine. 2 weeks later, here's this body of work I just made. Something current, not something from like 3 years ago. Hey, no, I just did this. This is what I'm up to. And I think that sort of, email etiquette's important. You're not trying to email people every day, but like, it's just something relevant. I did this work. I think you'd like it. That sort of thing.
Okay, we're going to squeeze in one last question.
Hi, Kareem.
Hello.
I just wanted to make a comment, especially to any students in the room, because we keep talking about relationships tonight, and I think I met you when you were an assistant, maybe assisting F. Scott Schaefer or Mark Baptiste, possibly, in the height of the art of album packaging. My name is Ali Trush, and I was creative director for 4 major record companies. But I came here tonight because I am now design faculty at SVA, and I want to also express how important the connection between photography and graphic design is to anyone in this room. And it's also a pleasure to meet some of the SVA photography faculty tonight. So I was very curious to see your work tonight and just to see where you're at. So again, like, I don't know how many years it's been, but that's the power of relationships. So
This is, can I just say something? Now I'm nervous. This is insane. Thank you for coming so much. So, Ali Trush, forgive me.
Was it Scott or
Mrs. Trush. I didn't assist for either of them, but I'll tell you how we know each other. I shot for you. I shot for you.
I saw your name and I was like, how do I know? How do I remember?
Okay.
I have to come tonight.
So I don't know if you remember this. 2000, maybe 5 or 6. You were at a record label, right?
2005, J Records.
Something, okay. You had a wall of photographers on it And it was all people, it was Mark Baptiste, it was Kwaku Alston, all these people, all these photographers that I wanted to, they were my heroes. And I was like, well, I'm going to be on that wall.
Well, now I feel really honored because I've shot with all of them.
You hired me to shoot, we shot something in LA, I'm not sure if you were there, but we shot a couple things. And I remember on that wall, I think there were like 2 or 3 projects that said Kareem Black on your wall.
Alley
Truth,
I can't
my
even
God.
remember that you remember that, but
It was a
yeah.
it was a huge honor
Thank
to be
you.
on that wall.
I know that the world's grown a lot in the past few years, especially with racism and all that stuff. But I was always trying to hire, black and brown people more than anyone else because I felt that it was so important. And, I'm very proud of that now to this day. So.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was a huge honor, a huge feather in my cap doing work with you. I thank you for coming to my lecture.
Thank you. Yeah. Stuff's looking great. Yeah.